guys, you should all have that printout that the keeps passing out in his bulletin. So you can go off that, you can write notes, and then there are details in that skills section. Okay, so I just need one of you right now. We're going to do ready position first. So basic passing. So whenever we want our players in ready position, there's a few things that we want to know. There are different postures, and this is going to play into later on tempo passing and things like that. So you're going to have a low posture, a medium posture, and a high posture when it comes to passing. Low posture obviously is going to be defense, and it's a little bit harder to agile in, so we want to make sure that when we're moving in defense, that we're transitioning low, and as we're playing defense, that we're playing low so that we have more time to see the ball. The higher up you are, the less time that you have to see and react to the ball. So we're going to do basic ready position, serve, receive, that's all medium posture passing, okay? High posture is going to be, if you're free balling, then you can be a little bit more extended with your body, you're going to use your hips to play the ball. Like that. So if you hear us talking about that, that's what we're talking about. So Bree's going to get in medium posture, ready position. Go ahead and turn to your side so that they can see your hips. Okay, so what we want in ready position is we want her hips or her feet a little bit further than shoulder width. So we don't want our players standing wide because now that they can't move, and if they're standing too close, they're off balance, right? So our feet are going to determine everything in our skills. So feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. Knees are going to be bent. Her knees are over her toes, and her shoulders are over her knees, okay? So she doesn't have to be necessarily super low. We want her in a nice, comfortable position. So she can even, when you're adjusting your players too, this is something that players really have a hard time with. When we say, hey, I want your shoulders over your knees, they're like, what are you talking about? Right here, if you look at their hip angle, this is gonna help you tell them, you can stand up a little bit more, you don't have to be hurting, but we still want your shoulders over your knees, okay? So look at their hip angle a lot when you're talking to them and it'll make sense. Okay, so your platform, whenever we want them to play the ball, we want their platform, or right now, their hands when they're in ready position should be nice and neutral. If they drop their hands low, then they're gonna have to swing up to play the ball and now they're out of control, right? So we want their hands nice and neutral, and then as they go high, that's an easy place to pop up to. When they pass the ball, we want their platform away from their body, so pop your platform out. Like you're passing the ball. Okay, sorry. Okay, so platform, and we're gonna go through everything, because some of you guys are new coaches, some of you are not, so some of this is gonna be repetitive and that's fine, okay? When they're running and pursuing a ball, their hands are always apart, and they pop their platform together. We never want your fingers to interlock because you're gonna break them and it takes time. So there's a couple ways you can do your platform, but the most important thing is that your thumbs right here are gonna be together and pointing towards the ground, okay? We want a nice flat surface to play the platform on. The other thing, or to play the ball. The other thing is that we want to respect this space right here between platform and body because this is going to create a good pass. The second you let your passer start dropping their platform, this ball is gonna shoot out and it's not a playable ball. High platforms, pops the ball up, okay? So if they're playing in front of the 10-foot line, we can pop the ball up more because you need to. But the further they move back on the court, this angle is going to adjust, which takes us into angle passing, which is what we're teaching. So get back in ready position to your legs. I'm just not about that. We can like sub out if we need to. Okay, so platform out. Okay, so when passing, it's very important that platform's away from their body. Okay, the other thing that players have a hard time with is that this platform is going to control the ball. If at any point it is pushing on the ball, or the ball is pushing on your platform, they're out of control with their pass, okay? There's one time that it's okay to pull in your platform, and it's when you're cushioning a hard-driven ball. Everything else, we want platform to ball because we want them playing the ball, not the ball playing them. And there's some cue words that you guys can listen to and think of and write down if you want. There's a list of them, but that's one of the ones I use a lot is that you play the ball. Do not let the ball play you. You're in control of the ball, okay? So nice hard platform, flat platform. Whenever we teach angle passing, we're teaching them, some coaches teach that they want their bodies to get all the way around to the ball, and that's good. We want you to have, if you have time to do that, go for it. Realistically, the older they get, they just don't have a lot of time unless it's a high free ball. But even at that age, they're sending over some pretty hard-driven free balls. So most of the stuff they're playing, we're going to teach angle passing. I'm like, good job, Bree.
It's because she's
okay,
her toes so much.
Bree's
She
playing
needs to
ball
relax her
and
toes.
she needs her
Look
target's
how
over here
she's
to
her
her
heels
right.
off the ground.
And when we talk about angle passing, we're angling our platform. So she's going to drop
Look at her
that
heels.
right shoulder, and we're going to tell our players platform to target. So anywhere that they move on the court, you can stand up, I'll do this. Anywhere they move on the court, if target's consistent, then their platform is angling to the target everywhere they go, right? So they don't necessarily have to get their feet there. They can just pop their platform, and as long as that angle is facing the target, then we're good to go. One of the things that I teach my little players that I've not ever taught as a team but I've done camps with is that we draw like little eyeballs right here. Has anybody done this? Mm-hmm. And we tell them that this is the eye of your platform right here. And if you put eyeballs on it, anywhere that those eyes are looking, the ball is going to go. And it's so simple, but it's so true. And a lot of the older players are like, why is my ball not going to target? And then we'll say, well, look at where the eyes of your platform. If the eyes are over here, that ball is going in that direction. So if you just drop the angle, now my eyes are facing the target. Okay, so does that kind of make sense with angle passing? So we're not necessarily teaching always getting your hips behind the ball, passing in your midline. That's good when you have time, but we want them to know how to pass angles, okay? Okay, so this is a drill that kind of backs that up. Oh, the other thing that I harp on a lot with my passers is that we want their momentum going into the ball all the time. So I teach my girls that you're constantly tracking the ball. No matter what kind of ball it is, I should be staying behind the ball and the ball's in front of me, so that I can get my feet stopped and then my momentum is going back into the ball. Because if you watch your passers a lot of times who are struggling, they'll pass and they'll either pop their butt out and so their momentum isn't going with the ball, or they're kind of lean up and now their passes are coming behind them. And you think your platform's good, what's going on? It's because you've got to get their momentum going into the ball. So footwork has to be good so they can get stopped pushing back into the ball. Serve, receive, free balls, down balls, anything, momentum into the ball. That's consistent across the board. Okay? Where's Tommy? Okay, will you come demo?
Also, y'all, the cue words that she was mentioning are on your second page. So if y'all didn't notice, there's cue words on there, and you can, if there's something that you hear from her, that you can add them in there, cue words.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I know this is really fast. Okay, so this is
Buying a
one of the
tripod.
things that I think, and I know we've talked about, that is so important with coaching, is that your players need to get in as many reps as possible. So in the beginning of the season, you want reps, fundamentals, but that also doesn't go away throughout the season. And a lot of times coaches will come in and they're like, well, we want to do different games every time. And there is a time for that. It's good to throw in games. We had talked about in the middle of practices, throwing in games to kind of break up the monotony, making sure you are giving them new games. But if every single practice, your practice is changing, then they're not really perfecting anything. And so I know for me, I'm a big stickler in training. Probably I need to be more on the fun game side than the training side. But I like my girls to do it right, and at the end of the season, they're going to look good because we're going to do it right every single time. So whenever they come in and they do warm-ups, this is one of the drill that Lexi can tell you she did probably 100 times last season. I think she hated it every time. But I can tell you her passing is going to look better at the end of the season. Two of my worst passers, I had them in ATP this year, and they came back, and I was like, everybody watch them. That's so good. And it was because they just did fundamentals all the time. So in the beginning of every practice, I have my girls line up, and we have one passer at the 10-foot line, whoever, one passer at the net. And we're going to discuss momentum into the ball, and we're going to teach a lot of angles because players don't understand angles with platforms. So what I teach them is that right now, the ball shouldn't go over the 10-foot line. I mean, not the 10-foot line, the antenna. So which would be kind of a faster tempo passing in control. We don't want it super high. Just antenna height controlled passing. So they're going to pass 10 balls back and forth right here, and every single time I'm going to teach them to pass, back in ready position, pass, back in ready position. Because the other thing I don't want, that's hard for younger girls especially, is that I don't want them on the court like this, ever. I want them moving and always being, I never want them static. I always want them dynamic all the time because then they're athletic and they're ready to go. So they're going to practice that in this drill, and if they don't do it right, they're going to do it again. Not y'all, but. So what we're going to teach is that, so here comes the platform angle. They're passing close, so they know that this platform angle is going to be high, right? We drop it down, it's shooting at them. So they're going to pass 10 back and forth right here, and it's going to stay dynamic the whole time. So then she's going to say, all right, 15-foot line. She's going to shuffle back to the 15-foot line after they've passed 10. You're going to do it in a minute, but come on back. Okay, so now the platform angle is going to drop for both of them, right? So now she's further back in the court, so put your platform out, like you're passing. So 10-foot line to 10-foot line, this is the angle. Midway through the court, we're dropping our angle because we're not trying to use our hips, we're using our legs, and we're staying in control, and that all comes from your platform angle. So back to the inline. So then they're going to do 10 from back here. At this point, same thing. We want the ball in control, so ready position. So now her angle is going to look more like this, right? Because she has a further distance to cover. So we don't swing our arms more, we change our angle. That's it, okay? All right, so come back up, and you guys can pass. So just do like 4, and then shuffle back. So a nice toss. What I would tell Bree right now is that her shoulders need to be over her knees. See how she's standing up? That's lazy passing. So every single time passing the ball, and you're just gonna have to pretend like you're a player. I would tell her that. I would say, no, I want you every single time. I want your platform out, and I would make her do it again. Because the second that she starts coming up, that muscle memory is gone, right? So it's so important when they're warming up that you're telling them, I know that you don't want to hear me say this, but your muscles are making memories right now. And when you're not teaching them correctly, when you get on the court, I can't reteach you. You've got to do it now. So it's in warm-up. So come back and do a couple more, and then make sure you pass and get in ready position. and I would have them call the ball.
Mine.
And I would have her as well, her base probably a little bit wider. So those are just picky things, but those are things that I would correct. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. So on that one, she would need to shuffle back so that her posture stays the same all the time. Okay, so go ahead and go midway through. So what you want is you want this continuous. So they should be talking and they should be saying, okay, I'm going mid-court. And we're dropping the ankle. So, okay, do you see how Bree's passing right here? Okay, so is this a good example? Do you guys see what I'm saying? So do you see how her posture changed from here to here? And she's not changing her angle, she's changing her shoulders and she's standing up more and more because her habit is to use her legs. Well, we're out of control at that point. So if that makes sense, we can move on, which is totally fine. That's what we're doing. But if you teach them to stay low and to use their angles, then they become very good serve receivers, which we all know serve receive. If you can't serve receive, you can't win a game. It doesn't matter what your offense looks like because you're in serve receive 50 to 60% of the time. So that all plays into that. So thanks, that's good. I told her to do all this.
I told her to do all this.
Okay. Okay, does that make sense? Do y'all have questions? I know I'm going through this so fast and you're probably like, but you can ask questions. Okay, let's talk about arm swing. So the next thing.
Oh, wait, I have another question.
Okay.
Is that something that they do in warm-up?
Yeah, so I have them come in every single day. We're going to do our dynamic, we're jogging, and then they're passing every time until they get it right, and then we'll move on. So for me in my practices, we do fundamentals every single practice. There are a couple of practices where I'll come in and say, hey, we're going to warm up with the game, and they're like, thank the Lord. But other than that, we do fundamentals every single time. Okay, arm swing. Okay, do you want to demo this, Tommy?
Yeah.
Actually, you can demo it there. So you guys must have, we're not like having to get 100 balls.
Oh, how you doing?
Okay. So what we're going to talk about, I'm going to talk about arm swing first, and then we'll move into your feet and approaching. What we want on their arm swing is that we want to make sure that that they know that their power is not coming from just swinging faster. Because what's going to happen is you're going to put a lot of torque on that shoulder, and when you tell a player, swing faster, and they're trying to hit harder, you're just going to frustrate them because they're going to swing harder, it's going to hurt, they're going to get tired, and they're not going to get much better. They might get 1 or 2 good kills out of that, but that's not really what we want them to learn. So what we want is we want to make sure that when they're hitting, that their shoulders are open about 45 degrees and that this elbow is nice and high above their shoulder, okay? So I tell my hitters, I want you loaded fast, I want you hitter ready. So when I say load fast, that means I want both arms up. Well, I think the worst habit I've seen, which we talked about today, is players don't think that they need that opposite arm because they're just nice and used to doing this. Well, there's a couple things that happen. If you're not going to pull up your left arm, 1, that's your tracking arm, so it's going to balance out your shoulders. 2, it gives you vertical in your approach, right, because our vertical is coming from our momentum. And then 3, it's just balance. Everything in volleyball is balance and deflecting angles. So we want them to get both arms up to track the ball with their left arm or whatever, if they're left-handed, their right arm. Elbow nice and high. And then we're going to have them close their shoulders. So I tell them a lot in warm-ups, you need to be opening to closing every single time. I don't want to see you hitting balls like this because this is going to tear your rotator cuff. So we want them pulling back, kind of like a bow and arrow, throwing their elbow, and contacting that ball high. Okay? So let's demo what we would do with this really quick. Make sure that, okay. Oh, the other thing I always talk about a lot is hand-to-ball contact. So you want to hear like the big splat on the ball. When they're hitting, if you hear that splat, then that means that they have really good hand-to-ball contact. And that's going to help them with their range in hitting. So again, that all plays into warm-up. So when we warm up, we're not just throwing a ball around. I'm saying you need to be opening your shoulders every single time, open to close. So they'll throw first, high elbow throw, is what I call it. And she'll open to close just like that every time and release high. So they'll do that a few times. It's okay. Follow through your target is what I would tell them. Open to close. Never let them get away with that. Then we'll go into hitting the ball. One of the things a lot of players do, Christina has a hitter coming up, her name's Savannah, and I think she probably has the best approach I've seen for her age, maybe ever. She's like full of power. But when she hits the ball, she tends to contact on the bottom of the ball and she hits and then she snaps. Well, the ball is already gone, right? So her snap's kind of useless and she doesn't know why she's not driving the ball down. So what I'll do in warm-ups too every day is that, so once they go from high elbow throw, then they're gonna just work on just their wrist snap. So I want them to contact mid to top part of the ball, just like when you're attacking, because now we can drive that ball down. So they're not allowed to follow through past their shoulder because I don't want them focusing on their follow through. I want them just to work on their wrist snap, okay? So same thing. So hit the ball down, and you can do it under the net if you want to work on keeping the contact high. And they should still be powerful. A lot of players think, so Bree needs to open her shoulder. Do you guys see this? Maybe follow along with me. Maybe this week will help. It's okay, this is good. Sorry. So, but because, again, Bree's going to tear her rotator cuff eventually if she keeps playing because she's hitting like this. So she needs to pull that shoulder back and swing into the ball. So keep going. So left arm high, nice high snap, driving the ball down. The other thing is players tend to back off a lot on the trajectory or the speed of the ball whenever they're hitting like this, and it should still be powerful. So if we're teaching them that from open to close and snap, you're getting a lot of your power, and that needs to happen right here too. So I would tell them stay aggressive. So then after that, I would go ahead and have them follow all the way through. So now you can just hit back and forth to get nice and warm. Okay. All right, I'm going to show you a drill. That's good. Does that all make sense? It's pretty basic. Okay. So this is a drill, again, that we did most of the practices. I don't know what she would say, but probably most of them. Lexi's like, I know all of this stuff. Okay, so what I would have is hitters go ahead and split up. So I like to, whenever we're warming up, lots of reps, like we said. I also like to incorporate other things as a secondary. So right now, primary is warming up your arm, if that makes sense. So I'm focusing on what does your arm look like. But why waste reps, right? So instead of having Bree just catch the ball, then she can shuffle back and pass to herself and work on platform control. And then if she makes a bad pass, that's fine. I don't care. I'm not focusing on your pass. She should be focusing on her form as she's moving back and forth, but I'm really coaching the arm swing right now. So this is a drill that I use all the time. I'll have them, they would start off in one, they would down ball to each other. So if Bree had the ball, Tommy's going to start on the line, she's going to shuffle back and move forward.
She's good at explaining, though. I like how she explains.
And then she's going to pass the ball to herself. Oh, sorry. See? Everybody needs work. So she's going to pass the ball to herself. It's hard. And then she would do the same thing. So Bree would start at the 10-foot line because they're never static. They're always dynamic, so they need to practice movement. She's going to slap the ball. She's going to shuffle back, feet, and pass the ball. Okay? So then they would move from that to, I would have them jump and attack now because we want them to get used to jumping and attacking. So I have them just stand on their left foot, toss, right, left, jump, and attack to their partner. And then, that's okay. But same thing, so the partner is going to be passing. So now she'll start on the 10-foot line every single time, and then she's going to push back. Okay. And then she's going to toss and attack. When she slaps, she'll push back. So, and a lot of times when you have players, this is what it looks like in the beginning of the season, but that's okay, that's good because you have a job as a coach, right? Like, that's fine, we love that, because then midway through the season, they're hitting it to each other and they've got really good hand-to-ball contact. Okay, so that's kind of the arm swing part that I would do. Does that make sense? Okay.
I think we should clap for our example.
Yeah, this is really good. Okay, so let's move on to approaching and attacking. All right, we're doing pretty good. Okay, Tom, you want to come approach through? You're not getting kicked out here. Okay. All right, so on the approach, we're just going to talk about 3-step approaching right now. So one of the most important things to begin the whole thing is that your player is nice and loaded. Okay, so this is another one of those keywords. I'm going to tell all my hitters, you need to be loaded. If you're going from straight up to straight down, you have now taken time out of your game and you're kind of just being lazy. Once you teach your players what it really feels like to play and to be focused and to work hard on everything, they really do like it. But what I find, especially with like the 15s, 16s, 14s age, is that when they haven't been taught that, they feel really goofy. You know, like they're kind of like loaded. We don't ever get loaded. And they feel kind of dumb doing that. But once you make everybody across the board do it and they become more explosive together, they like it and they'll appreciate it at the end. So nice and loaded on her right foot. The left foot, the first step, and all this too is with a right-handed hitter, just side note. The first step is going to be directional in your approach. So we need to make sure that the hitters are waiting, that they're not approaching before they see the set. So they're going to wait, and that foot's going to take them, if their setter sets them outside, they're going to go to the outside. If their setter sets them inside, then that directional step is going to take her inside. It's a big step, so go ahead and take your left step, and then we're going to take, last two are going to be quick. Okay, so there's a couple things here, is that one, we want our players going from slow to fast. So they should always be accelerating in their approach. And this is important because if you see a player that does this, now they've lost all their momentum, right? Because we're telling them your power is not coming from your arm swing. It's coming from the momentum that you're generating in your approach. So I know some colleges, I've talked to a couple of college coaches that have said that whenever they watch hitters, they look for their arm in the pendulum swing and how aggressive are they on pulling up, because that's a lot of their momentum. So that tells you that so much of your aggression is going to come from what you're doing right here in your approach. So if we stop right here and then shoot straight up because we're going for vertical, you're actually losing all of that momentum that you've built up, and you're losing vertical. So what we want is we want them accelerating in their approach. Their last 2 sets are going to be as fast as you can get them off the ground, because we want that momentum to shoot up into the attack. Okay, so go ahead and just do it full. With the younger players, you kind of have to break it down too. I just thought about this. The arm swing should just be one pendulum swing. If we do a lot of this kind of stuff, then you're off timing. Okay, so I always tell the younger players, left, arms out, and then as this right foot's crossing, arms back, and now we're loaded. And then up, high elbow, and that goes all back into what we talked about with the warm-ups. Okay. With this too, we'll do this in a second, but one of the things I think is really important is that where you plant your feet is going to determine how well you can hit the ball. If you have players that are planting their feet right under the ball, they don't really have a lot of places to go, because they're going to contact on the mid to bottom part of that ball. So it's going to go deep. They can't drive that ball down at that point. So let's say that this blue line is where you're getting the set. So the ball's right here in the air. Then Tommy would need to plant her feet behind the ball, jump into the attack, and land on the other side of her hit. Okay? If you're like me, all of your coaches probably told you, don't broad jump when you're hitting. And that was a long time ago, but we actually do want them broad jumping just a little bit. Not a lot. We want them covering a small distance, because remember, again, your momentum is going to go into your approach, into the ball, and then you're landing. So our setters should be setting our hitters at least a few feet off the net. Well, I would say not at least, but about 2 or 3 feet off the net, so that they can jump and attack and they're still in control of their bodies. Okay, so again, if they hit that wall and go straight up, they've lost a lot of power and a lot of vertical. Where's mine? So we're going to do a drill. Show you. And all those keywords are also on that paper that I handed you. Okay. Okay. I think on there I put one of the three of the big issues that I see a lot with approaching is acceleration. Players don't know that they're supposed to accelerate into their hit. High contact on top of the ball, especially the younger girls. You have a lot of girls who like to drop their arm, which again is losing vertical. And then adjusting to the set is a big one, which I think is probably maybe one of the most undercoached things. And it's really hard to coach, but there are some things that you can do to help them with that. So these are the 3 things that I like in these instances. So the first thing I would have them do is approach over the cone with a tennis ball. So I'm going to give my players tennis balls, and there's a couple things that I'm looking for.
Is she talking to me? Are you talking to me? Oh.
So I'm going to set these cones where I want my players taking off from. So I'm going to teach my setters that I want my set 2 feet, maybe even a little bit more, but we're going to, these guys can broad jump a little bit. No,
They won't fly as well.
So, okay, really quick, this is a little side note. The other thing is a lot of players don't know where to start their approach from. If you ask them this, you'll find this out. They think they do, but they don't know. There's kind of a sweet spot that you have to find for your hitters, and it's not consistent. It's different for every hitter. I have short legs, so my legs don't take me as long as Tommy's or Nicole's. Is a good example. So we're going to start from different places. So you need to make sure that you're watching. Like at times when you're coaching, you can't just watch the entire player, right? You've got to make sure that you're seeing, okay, I'm just going to watch her feet today, and I'm going to see where is she planting her feet in relation to the ball. And then I'm going to say, okay, her feet are good, but we're still having issues. Well, now I'm going to watch her rotation and where is she contacting the ball, and actually watching her hand contact the ball. And one of the things that coaches do a lot is that you're just throwing out information. When a lot of times, I think, in my opinion, it's really helpful just to sit, to watch, figure out their tendency, and to coach that. Because if you're not coaching their tendencies, you're not helping them. If they have one awesome hit, and then they have one terrible hit, and then they have 4 awesome hits, well, that terrible hit was probably not the tendency. So I don't really need to coach that, because that's going to happen to all of us, right? But on their awesome hits, if there's ways that I can improve that, that's what I'm going to coach. So move on to the next ball. If they have a terrible hit, that's fine. I don't need to tell you snap your wrist. You probably know that, right? So this drill is going to kind of help them find where they're going to start their approach and to feel comfortable with getting where I want the set to be. So I want the set right here inside these cones. So I'm going to have them take off behind the cones on their last 2 steps. They're going to jump. After they jump, they're going to throw the tennis ball, and then they need to land on the other side of these cones. When they throw the tennis ball, you can pay attention to their contact, because if they're throwing the ball out, they're probably releasing the ball behind them, or something's going on right here. We want them to contact the ball and enter two in front of them, right? Not behind them, not way out here so they're in the net. We wanted an enter two in front of them so they can see their blockers, and they can see the ball, and they can see the court. Okay? So that's what this drill is going to show us. Planting their feet, accelerating into that approach, and where are they releasing the ball, and that's probably where they're comfortable hitting. Just approach and throw. Okay, so approach and throw. Okay. So yeah, two things on that. So watch the release, and then we'll talk about this in a second. Both of your feet need to be taking off behind the stone. Behind the stone. I didn't say that. Okay. Okay, so real quick on that.
10
What
foot.
did you see with Tommy's release? Why did she throw it in the net? Because she's contacting too far out in front of her, right? So that's not how Tommy normally hits, but if we had a hitter that was doing that over and over and over, then she's probably pretty used to contacting this ball right here. So how are we going to change that? We're going to get her comfortable with planting her feet closer to the ball so she's not reaching. It's going to feel really weird for her at first, but we can't successfully hit the ball